Also to promote experience exchange, we host this event or this workshop under the Chatham House rules. They read as follows: when a meeting or a part thereof is held under the Chatham House rule, participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor that of any other participant may be revealed. Of course, you can all see your names in the participant list, so it's a fairly it's not totally digitalized, this rule, but for the record, it will be relevant when we make report from the events, where all names will be anonymized, both of persons and organizations or entities. So just as a quick overview who are here today, you can of course see the participant list and you might be familiar with each other, but this is a multi-stakeholder workshop, and we're very happy to have so many stakeholder groups present. We have federations, we have factories, brands, NGOs, government representatives, and multi-stakeholder initiatives with us, and we're very happy for that, and thank you all again for participating in this workshop. This is what we're going to go through. So we're done now with the house rules and the agenda. So we're going to move on to the welcome note, and then you're going to have an introduction to a gender sensitive workplace program, which we had to move from yesterday and put it in today's program. Then you're going to hear more about our COVID-19 response. What have we done and what have we learned? And then we would really like to hear from you what the focus should be moving forward. And there will be some thoughts on planning for the future from BGMEA and the ETI UK before we end with the closing remarks. So with no further ado, I'd really like to give the word to you, Hannah Bruce, who's Practice, Evidence and Learning Senior Manager at ETI UK, to give us all a welcome note from the ETI UK.
Wonderful, thank you, Raden. And I just want to double check, can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. So thank you very much all, and thank you very much for joining us again if you're joining us for the second day. Today you're joining us for day 2 of a virtual event, as Raden has set out, which is being run by the joint ETIs to exchange knowledge and information on ETI's work in Bangladesh. So we're very pleased that you're able to join us today and have a little bit more insights into the wonderful work that we have been up to. But as Raden says, we would love to be able to hear from yourselves as well as part of this session. We had a really good session yesterday where we heard from an excellent array of speakers. Today we will be focusing on bridging that link between work in the social dialogue area of work, and also where we have responded to COVID-19, as you have seen from the agenda. As part of this work we have worked collaboratively with several brands and their nominated suppliers on a specific area of work which is funded by the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, which is part of the UK government, through the Vulnerable Supply Chains Facility. So we'll hear from others around where this project has got to date, and where we will be going forwards. But first, I want to take a moment to reflect on the year that has been, especially as today is Global Human Rights Day, and I think it's very important to reflect on that and think about the rights of many rights holders across the world, but also within the work that we have been doing and the challenges that we have specifically faced over the last year. So as we've all experienced, the unprecedented crisis has shocked markets around the world and is showing signs of long-lasting impact on the world economy. We've observed huge disruptions to the global garment supply chain, and workers have been significantly affected by these disruptions. Like many others, at ETI we had to adjust to the challenges and the disruptions that threw at us. And for a significant period of time this year, we adapted many of our plans to respond to these needs that were presented. I'm going to briefly walk through some of the responses that ETI has taken over this course of time. to reflect on some of those activities that we've done, both in local areas, but then also across globally. So ETI initially responded to some of these shocks from national lockdowns and market disruptions across multiple supply chains, as the disruptions were being felt across multiple supply chains. ETI set out its expectations of company members in regards to the responsible business conduct, and we joined others to endorse the call to action to the global garment industry. We developed practical guidance for businesses seeking to protect workers and have undertake responsible business conduct during COVID-19. So some of the areas that we developed some guidance were around things such as the experiences that migrant workers were particularly facing during COVID-19. We also joined hands with Fair Wear Foundation to jointly develop guidance around lost wages and jobs, and also occupational health and safety guidance, a discussion paper. So if you haven't seen any of these resources, please do go to the ETI website. There's a lot of that on there. We also joined up with a number of ETI members to hear what their experiences were and work that they were undertaking. And one of the areas of this was also with Rollington Knitwear, and a great video was provided by Ken from Rollington Knitwear. And we also connected with a number of our ETI members who are distributors in personal protective equipment, to also provide a little bit of a briefing and an overview around the differences in relation to PPE. If you imagine back when we were starting on this journey, there were lots of questions around personal protective equipment and where they were being sourced from, and the different types of personal protective equipment to use throughout this pandemic and within different settings. Next slide, please. We also worked collaboratively across a number of different areas. So one of these areas was thinking about how we focus on the various different programmatic work that we had underway. So I mentioned this discussion sheet in relation to occupational health and safety, and this also focused our minds specifically in relation to what are the practical experiences that we can work with our members and suppliers to support the RMG sector whilst it's going through this crisis. And hence some of the work that we will be speaking about today is covered through some of this partnership and the partnerships that we've built as part of this work. As I mentioned, through the FCDO Vulnerable Supply Chains Facility Fund, but then also we had to think about our existing areas of work and how we adapt those existing areas of work, for example, in the social dialogue work, to ensure that we can continue to engage with the very established partnerships that we already had. Through this, it was clear that establishing the dialogue across different multiple stakeholders was critical. And it was really important to build those collaborations and those networks of dialogue in order to be able to navigate through the pandemic, which we were all facing for the very first time. The pandemic has shown fragility of the RMG sector and many other sectors, but there is an opportunity to build stronger supply chains and partnerships. With strong collaborations, we have a chance to go even further in addressing the fragility in supply chains and seriously tackle the vulnerabilities that many people face. We want to thank you for your continued engagement, to all of you who have been involved, especially suppliers, brands, and the workers that take the time to try new approaches and test new boundaries. We hope that from today's session, it will be an opportunity to engage on some of those areas where there's opportunities for future collaboration. So please feel free to engage in the sessions and raise any questions or comments that you have. And thank you very much for participating. I'll see you later on.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for those words. That's an optimistic note for us to start this workshop. I'm going to give the word to Abel bin Amin, who's the country manager for ETI Bangladesh, just to give us a quick recap from yesterday's workshop for those of you who weren't able to join yesterday. Please, Abel, go ahead.
Thank you, Raidu. Can everyone hear me? Welcome. Good morning to all the participants who are based in Europe, and good afternoon to all the participants who are based in Bangladesh. I'm Abdul Bin Amin. I'm the country manager for ETI Bangladesh. I would like to just recap a little bit about what happened yesterday for the benefit of the participants who missed out on yesterday. And yesterday was a very eventful day. We started off with a welcome note from the ambassador to Bangladesh from the Royal Norwegian Embassy, which was followed up by opening notes from the executive director from both Norway and UK. It was heartwarming to see the positive thinking that all the three speakers have for Bangladesh and the vision they have for Bangladesh going forward. Then we had the external evaluator, Mr. Hassan, presenting from the about the external evaluation of the phase 3 of the social dialogue program. I will not go into the details of all the recommendations that came out of that study, but two of the main highlights that came out, or the key recommendations that were provided to us, was that the program can first of all do more on ensuring top management buy-in of the program. And secondly, the program needs to focus more on ensuring long-term sustainability of the program inside the workplace, so that the work that we start continue even beyond the program period. We also heard from our program manager, Sarah Peterson, that we are taking both these recommendations very seriously, and we already have a plan to implement them from next year onward. And we will engage with our program partners from early next year to roll those plans out. We also heard from some of the key program partners and stakeholders. Unfortunately, we couldn't have the workers and the factories management, who are the main focus area of the program, directly, but we saw a short video where they reiterated their feelings and feedbacks about the program. We were lucky to have one of our brothers from the federations to share his feedback. And one of the key feedbacks he did provide yesterday was that the program also needs to focus more on working more closely with the federations and the trade unions to ensure that worker voice is represented in all levels of decision making. We also take that recommendations very seriously, and we will also work more closely with our brothers and sisters in the federations and the trade unions going forward. Unfortunately, yesterday we couldn't hear the last presentation about from our gender specialist, Ms. Nazneen, about the gender sensitive workplace program, but we will hear her today. We finished yesterday with a poll where we asked all the participants whether they feel that whether social dialogue is still a viable tool during the COVID pandemic. Overwhelmingly, very high number of the participants shared that they still feel that social dialogue is an effective tool to ensure worker voice. And the second result most of the participants choose was that social dialogue can also be an effective tool to address occupational health and safety issues, including infection prevention and control. At its height yesterday, we had 128 participants. That's an overwhelming number of participants for us. And I would just like to take a little bit of time to again thank everyone for the support, for not only for this event, but for the continuous support that we have received from our members, from the factories, and from the wider stakeholder to help us continue this work in Bangladesh. Thank you again. And we will also share the link, audio link, and all the presentations from day one for those who have missed out. Again, thank you so much, and hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you. Raidu, over to you.
Thank you very much, Abil. So now we have the long awaited presentation on the gender focus and in the gender program that we're starting up. So very welcome to you, Nazneen Begum, gender specialist at ETI Bangladesh. It's great to have you with us, and thank you so much for sharing a bit of information on this important topic.
Thank you, Raidu. Good morning to all participants from Europe, and good afternoon to all participants from Bangladesh. So, you know, we already started the gender program beside of SD program. So from this aspect, we think that after gender sensitive workplace program implementation, we will achieve the promoting gender friendly workplace for improved productivity and better business. We have a vision that we want to go in there on there. So next slide, please. So our gender sensitive workplace program is goal and objective is very simple, that our overall goal is create a gender friendly workplace for healthy industrial relation, which will contribute to improve productivity and sustainable growth. So we believe that it will be possible. Uh, and our specific objective is empower female workers through increased knowledge, awareness, and leadership skill. And another is increased capacity of factories to institutionalize safeguarding mechanism against gender-based violence. So we are working for that because we already started the gender program in the factory level. So please say next slide, please. Our expected outcome is we will work with 60 factories, the gender sensitive workplace. So 60 factories to receive technical and advisory support for creating a gender friendly workplace, and 54,000 female workers to be sensitized on gender issues. 600 factory manager and 6,000 supervisor and 360 members of sexual harassment compliance committee members to be trained on gender-based violence and sexual harassment issues in the workplace. And another is 60 factory will receive advisory support to establish and operate sexual harassment compliance committee in their respective factories. So this is our expected outcomes, and which we are working in this gender sensitive workplace program. At first, we have revised the SD modules through gender lens. So now we have incorporated some gender issues in the SD modules, and awareness building and sensitization on 8 March, International Women's Day, and 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which is started from 25 November to 10 December, still 2 days within 10 factories. So for this purpose, we have developed, I can share this, that 16 days activism against gender-based violence, we have developed one leaflet and one song on gender equality and stop gender-based violence. So we will, of course, we will hear this song today because yesterday we have not enough time. That's why we could not hear this song. And another activity that we conducted is a study on immediate impact of COVID-19 on RNG workers in Bangladesh. A rapid gender assessment we have already conducted. And we have developed 3 modules on gender sensitive workplace, gender-based violence and sexual harassment for management and supervisor and sexual harassment complaint committee members. Management workshop will held for 1 day. Supervisor training also duration is 1 day, and sexual harassment complaint committee members training will be the time frame is 4 days. We have validation the 3 modules by the representative from the brand, factory management, and federation. Then we have started this training on the modules. We have seen here it was the 80 March day observation at one factory. Please, Radu, next slide. I already mentioned that we have already started the training at the factory level. So we have already 4 factories signed up the program, the gender program. We 4 factories already agreement with us. and gender assessment completed in 4 factories also. The training and capacity has started on gender sensitive workplace, gender-based violence, sexual harassment with factory management virtually. So now we are conducting the workshop only 3 hours because of pandemic situation. So it was virtually, and it is continuing by the virtually. Another facilitation of network for sharing learning and best practices. We have already shared some information and message from one and another factories, and our another activities is technical and advisory support for the formation activation of sexual harassment complaint committee, which I already mentioned before, and publication and distribution the IC materials. Here you have seen that one leaflet we have already printed and circulated to the 12,000 workers at 10 factories. So this is our opportunity. It was our opportunity to circular and distributed this leaflet. Please next. I already mentioned that training duration, which is management training. Training will be held for 1 day, supervisor training for 1 day, and sexual harassment complaint committee members training will be is the training duration is 4 days. And last. Thank you very much. I already mentioned that we have developed a song on gender equality and stop gender-based violence. So Raidu, what you will do after this presentation, you want to hear to us or finish the workshop, then you want to hear this song. It's up to you. I'm end from my side. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you very much, Nazneen. That was really interesting. We're going to play, this is for your, so that everyone can see the link to the song, but we will play the song at the end as a sort of a uplifting closure of the workshop. Thank you very much, Nazneen. We got a question for you while you were speaking. Is the rapid gender assessment study publicly available? Just for clarification.
Pardon me, please say again.
Is the rapid gender assessment study publicly available? There is a question chat here.
No, we already shared with the factory management and brand and also headquartered. So it will available after the publication this report. So I think it will come after the publication from available to all of us.
So in some time.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nazneen, for presenting and giving us some insights into this important area of our work. We're gonna go on and we're gonna listen to the song in the end, as I said.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is a great song, even though I don't understand everything.
Yeah.
And next on our agenda today is Shamim Muniruddin, which is program manager at ETI Bangladesh, who will talk us through the ETI COVID response and give us some insights into that. The floor is yours, Shamim. Shamim. I think there's something with the line here. There you are.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you loud and clear. Perfect.
Okay. It's always difficult during this situation when we are using technology. Welcome again. In my presentation, briefly, I would focus on how we have adapted our strategy and how we have working together with our stakeholder, especially during COVID-19 situation. Next slide. Next slide. I do. Okay. Still, I could remember. Not yes, this one. I could remember on 24th March. Suddenly, in Bangladesh, we have been locked down without knowing what to do. The message information around us, every day the messages were actually getting us traumatized. Even the colleagues with ETI, we were not be able to take preparation to work from home even. However, at that situation, the day after, we just all colleagues connected have been connected through online meeting and started discussion actually what to do, even though we don't know actually what to do, what would be the right situation. But we decided whatever the situation is, we have to be with our stakeholder, we have to be our partners. So the main theme actually we adapted. We decided that, of course, considering the viruses, we will maintain physical distance, but we would be socially and professionally connected. So considering that, we all colleagues actually, we started a conversation, telephoning to all, especially focal person from the factories. Uh, uh, and I could remember within 2 months, we made actually more than 1,000 telephone calls every day morning. Our colleagues started calling to factories just to know what is going on, what to do, how can support us, how we can be working together. And finally, we thought it was really, really helpful for us to learn from the situation, to learn the situation, and also understanding our partners, our stakeholders, the people we are working with, the cause we are working for. And of course, it was really challenging for us to resumption our coordination mechanism, but somehow within a team spirit, we actually did it. And at the same time, we thought this is an opportunity. So we reorganize our work plan and we started emphasizing our institutional capacity development. So throughout this time, what we did, we reviewed our all modules. We developed our modules. At the same time, we started transforming content into the digital content, so that within the situation, we can start rolling out our training program. At the same time, what we did actually, we tried to see who is doing what, especially in the RMG sector, so that just to see whether there is any scope to connect with any particular support to get the factories connected with particular area where it would be supported for them. So this kind of initiative we taken. And in May, we started based on our continuous discussion and collaboration with the factory and brands. From May, we started webinar and online-based meeting. And I must say, you saw the photograph. This is our regular platform. I must say, it was really, it proved really, really helpful, because through this kind of platform, factory representatives, brand representatives, they started sharing even we received feedback from the factory and the response that it is actually breathing space for us. And through this program, they talk about about their salary payment status, what is going at the factory level, how they are calculating maternity benefit, and how they are maintaining social distance, and also how workers representatives were involved in maintaining this crisis. So it's work as a kind of cross-fertilization of platform, where actually we had opportunity to share our learning, to share our limitation, and as well as how we can actually work collectively. Next slide. Another support, actually, we thought it is really important here. That is, we thought information is very powerful, especially during COVID situation when we started witnessing COVID in Bangladesh. There was a lot of information. Some information was bad, some information was correct. So we thought we need to support the factories through vetted information, correct information, which would be useful. So we started scanning newspapers and started preparing weekly information sheet, which were circulated to our stakeholders. And we thought this kind of information support help factory to take informed decision. And then another support we try to provide to the our partners and factory, which is we collect different kind of awareness raising material from different sources, and also different kind of message, guidelines, policies, and immediately we circulate it to not only the factories we are currently working with, rather all factory we used to work with. So during that time, we knocked 50 factories, but somehow we managed to communicate and provide a support to 42 factories. And also we conducted, as part of our learning exercise, we conducted 2 assessments. One regarding gender assessment, my colleague Nazin already talked about. Apart from that, we also conducted remote health and safety assessment. One important issue I would like to mention here that the findings from those assessments were really useful to design our BSCF project. So, and also understand to realize what the situation is and what kind of support need to be in the place, and what kind of intervention we need to be in the place. And in addition, and based on that kind of intervention, discussion, and conversation, we actually now started a structured program, like we restarted our social dialogue and gender sensitive workplace program at the factory level, even though it is still online based. But this kind of information and continuous conversation actually help us to redesign our program in line with the requirements and the ground reality, which we consulted time to time with the factory and also branch representative. And based on that, we also developed our structured communication material. You saw in the first slide where there are a number of posters. So, and this material also developed in line with the requirements came from our regular based webinar with the factories. So throughout this process, actually, we tried. So main issue we thought very important. Somehow we decided actually we have to be with our partners, our the people we are working for. So we try to be keep in touch. Thank you so much for listening me. I think this is from my end. Thank you, Riley.
Thank you very much, Shamim. There are some questions coming in. We will address them after the next presentations. I hope that's okay with you. We have a Q&A session a bit later on. So next speaker on today's agenda is Sarah Peterson, Program Manager of the ETI UK, who will tell us a bit more about the VSCF program. Sarah.
Great. Thank you all so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. So yes, good morning and good afternoon to everyone, and welcome back to you all who were with us yesterday as well. My name is Sarah Peterson, and I'm working very closely with the team in Bangladesh, both with the social dialogue program that we discussed yesterday, as well as with our COVID response project and the other interventions that we are carrying out. As with typical aid and development lingo, the project, which is our COVID response, has been just called VSCF for short, which I think for most people doesn't say very much, but it basically stands for the facility who has kindly granted us the funds, once we had submitted and discussed our proposal. But it should probably be called Keeping Safe, Supporting the RMG Sector in Bangladesh Through the COVID-19 Crisis. And so if I could have the next slide, please, Raiden. Basically, the Vulnerable Supply Chain Facility is started from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, which came into place in September. As most of you know, it was previously the Department for International Development. And so it was actually still DFID when the facility came into place. And it's managed by a facility manager, Mott MacDonald, who we are having regular interaction with in terms of both the design and the progress of the project. And the VSCF is having projects in Bangladesh, but also in Myanmar when it comes to the garment side. And we are also fortunate enough to have been awarded another project, which we are implementing in East Africa, focusing on the agriculture sector. But obviously, in this case, we're focusing on Bangladesh and the interventions that we're doing there. So this is a facility that at its core is also to partnering with the brands and the corporate side of this. And so we have partnered with 7 corporate brand members of ETI UK. So those are Primark, New Look, Marks and Spencer, Tesco, Sainsbury's, Dimensions, and Arco, who are all very well established in Bangladesh and working with their suppliers there. So one of the reasons that we are working closely with these members are obviously to have that mutual engagement and basically making sure that the full supply chain is engaged in this intervention. And so we're having a very close dialogue with them and also regular meetings. The intervention was obviously started to be planned in spring and throughout the summer. And we had the contract signed in August when the intervention then commenced. One of the first things we had to do was obviously to start discussing which factories we would include. Obviously, we had to be quite targeted with this intervention. And also because it's only lasting for a year. So it's a rapid response, which goes from August to July in 2021. So one of the first things that we did was to discuss which factories to nominate, so to put forward criteria for the partner brands to put forward their suppliers. And throughout that process, we had 20 suppliers joining the project. It should also be mentioned that the funding received to carry out the interventions is around £300,000 for these 11 months. So the components and targets of the intervention. So in these 20 factories, there is about 38,000 workers. We had initially thought that it was actually going to be slightly less workers due to the startup again after the factories had been closed, etc. But actually, so we had an anticipation of about 30,000 workers, but as mentioned, it's around 38,000 instead, actually. So we're aiming to target them all with a digitally tablet-based OHS awareness raising training, which we will have Sophie from Quizzer shortly also providing a presentation over. And for you who were with us yesterday, you also heard Sophie mentioning the intervention that we have together in the social dialogue program as well. So we've spent quite a lot of time working together with Quizzer in getting the digitally based project component up and running. And the Quizzer team has been extremely busy working with outlining animations, etc., to really capture the essence of this training. out of the 20 factories that we are working with, we have also identified 6 factories where we will specifically strengthen their OHS capacity with a few more targeted interventions in-house. And so that actually refers back also to our needs assessment, which I will come back to at a later stage today and give an overview of. We have also outlined a bespoke OHS, or occupational health and safety, I should probably say. We're always using so many abbreviations, but I think most of you who are listening today are well familiar with OHS. We have outlined a bespoke training intervention targeting factory managers and supervisors in how to basically ensure that OHS standards are in place, and basically various methods of how to effectively implement it on the factory floor. So that's 4 modules that we have outlined, and we have done our internal training of trainers, and it's about to be rolled out imminently. Part of this project, a lot of emphasis is also on sharing learnings and also creating networks to take this forward also in the future. So one of our aims is to also establish a network with expertise that can remain also after this project is coming to an end, to continue to build support. So this is something that we are looking at now. The first initial months of the project, as you probably all know, is a lot about finding the right human resources in place, doing a lot of procurement for consultancy services in terms of the baseline and other technical capacities, etc. Also outlining the training modules. So our next step will very much be also looking at that expert support network. And finally, as mentioned here, the learning will not only be taken to Bangladesh, but also hopefully then connect with other similar regions where they are also struggling with the current situation. So for example, we've been talking about Myanmar being one. So that is something that we're currently exploring and looking into. And obviously this meeting that we're having today is a start to kind of initiate this conversation and also share the learning. So I really hope that many of you will be interested in also getting in touch to see how we could work together moving forward. So I think we're coming to my last slide, just to mention some of the achievements that we have had so far. So as mentioned, we have only been up and running since August. So we are currently just started our second quarter of the intervention. Well, we're actually 2 months into the second quarter of our intervention. And as mentioned before, we have then, we have our 20 suppliers nominated and part of the project. We have concluded our needs assessment and our baseline, and we have selected the 6 factories that we will work with more intensely as well. We have outlined the Quasar tablets, and as of yesterday, 1,266 workers have already received training in 3,895 training sessions. So each worker should have about 3 training sessions each using the tablet, which we'll go through later. And as mentioned previously, we've outlined our bespoke OHS trainings, and that is supposed to be rolled out to the factories imminently. We have also, which I will touch on later on, for the 6 factories that I've mentioned, we're also looking at corrective action plans to be decided together with the management to work out how things can be further improved and capacity further enhanced in those factories. And we're also now looking at, obviously, our procurement plans for provision of PPE equipment, which will happen imminently. So that is our current next steps, keeping everyone on their toes. Mott MacDonald is also working with us on this, making sure that things are happening as fast as we possibly can. And as mentioned previously, I will come back a bit later on to talk more about the facts and information we found out through our needs assessment. Thank you all so much.
Thank you very much for that, Sarah. We would actually like to ask the audience to follow up on what Sarah just said. What do you think would be the most effective component of our work on this? So I'm going to share with you a poll. Those of you who were here yesterday are familiar with the system. So I'm just going to get it up here. So this is a poll in which you go to the menti.com website. You can see the address at the top here, and then you press the code 4051147, which is also written in the top here. And then you answer the answer that fits your opinion best, basically. So which component of a response thus far do you believe will be the most effective moving forward? Is it A, awareness raising for workers? Is it B, training and capacity building for management? Is it C, personal protective equipment, procurement support, PPE procurement support? Is it D, facilitation of bi-monthly meetings with factories and brands respectively? Or is it E, none of the above? If so, please comment on what what it should be. So please feel free to enter your opinion there. You can see the answers coming in. Awareness raising for workers appears to be the winner in today's contest. There is more votes now for training and capacity building for management as well. If anyone else wants to provide their answer, please do that now, and then we'll close the poll. This is really useful for us to see what your thoughts are on this as well. So yes, awareness raising for workers comes first, and then training and capacity building for management comes in a second here, which is why you thought as the most effective way to move forward. Thank you very much. In the interest of time, we're going to close the poll now. But of course, we are always interested in hearing your comments and feedback and suggestion for moving forward as well. Thank you very much for providing your vote on this. So our next presenter now is Quizzer, and Sophie Nordström, which is the founder and deputy CEO of Quizzer, which is a tech tool that has been mentioned several times both yesterday and today. So Sophie will now talk us through the Quizzer intervention related to the COVID response. Thank you very much, Sophie, for being with us, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this meeting and to the second day of the webinar. I'm truly excited to be here, and for those of you who might not have joined yesterday, I just want to introduce myself. So I'm Sophie Nordström, and I'm one of the founders of Quizzer. We provide innovative tech solutions to bring important knowledge to workers, managers, and middle managers in global supply chains around the world. I'm extremely happy to be here today also because Bangladesh has a big place in my heart. I've been working and living in Bangladesh myself for 4 years. So extremely happy to be here today with you guys. So we work in collaboration with the ETIs, I should say, starting with actually the ETI Norway back in 2015, and then onwards been working with ETI both in China and in Bangladesh. And the joint ETIs, which were part of the presentation yesterday for the social dialogue program, and us, we have worked really closely with different innovations and different tech with sort of developing based on the Quasar solution, tech-based platforms for both social dialogue and, as we're going to talk about today, health and safety, with a special focus on COVID-19 response. So before I continue, I would like us to move to the second slide and meet the persons that we're actually targeting with every activity we do, I would say, which are the workers in factories. And in this specific project, we have developed jointly with the ETIs, especially with the local teams in Bangladesh. And thank you for working really hard with us on that. We've developed some animations on occupational health and safety. So here you see actually our heroes in the films, Rokeya, Rina, Jasmine, Sohel, and Babul. And Rokeya is our agent of change. She's a worker representative in a factory, and she's also the one that will sort of help her peers to understand how to benefit from the systems that should be there in the factory to support them. I thought we'll take a little look at the film, a snippet of the film. Let's hope the technology is working. If you just press the button, yeah, perfect.
আরে এইটা তো মেলাধার। হ ঠিকই কইছো, এই জন্যই এই মেটাল গ্লাস পইরা থাকি। ভাগ্যিস ফ্যাক্টরি থেকে দিছিল, নাহলে এগুলো কি একটাও থাকে? ধন্য, নিরাপত্তা সবার আগে। সেফটি কমিটিতে শ্রমিক প্রতিনিধি হিসেবে আমি জানছি যে সবার সুরক্ষার জন্য ফ্যাক্টরি সঠিক ব্যক্তিগত সুরক্ষা সরঞ্জামাদি বা পিপিই দিছে। আমাগো কিন্তু এইটাও বুঝতে হইব যে এগুলা ব্যবহার করা আমাগোই দায়িত্ব।
আরে ও আফা, তুমি যেহেতু কমিটিতে আছো, একটা পরামর্শ চামু?
অবশ্যই সোহেল, এই জন্যই তো তোমাগো লাইগা ফ্যাক্টরি শ্রমিক প্রতিনিধি রাখছে।
আমার কিছু বন্ধু আছে, তারা একদম পিপি পড়তেই চায় না। তারা নাকি আরাম করে কাজই করতে পারে না, আর কাজের গতিও নাকি কইমা যায়। অথচ তাগো বুঝাইতেই পারি না আফা, নিরাপত্তার লাইগা পিপি পরাটা কতটা জরুরি।
ভালো করছো জানাইয়া, আজকেই ব্যাপারটা ম্যানেজমেন্টে কমু।
আরে আফা, তুমি দেখি পুরাই অ্যাকশনে। আমি কিন্তু তাগরে কোনো বিপদে ফেলাইতে চাই।
Right. So that was just a little snippet of one of the films that we produced for this project. In total, there's 7 minutes of animation films mixed with live action films that are actually produced earlier and that were used in our previous occupational health and safety tools. So here you see a little sample of what the tool looks like. Focusing on, if you look at the left upper corner, focusing on on health and safety, fire safety, and on a COVID-19 module as well. The COVID-19 module has reliable information coming from trusted sources such as World Health Organization and so on, and it has been developed jointly with the ETI team members so that it reflects the situation of the workers in Bangladesh, especially when it comes to, for example, safety on how to transport yourself to and from work and what to do now that you're back in work again, after the first and hopefully the last wave of COVID in Bangladesh. So just to give you a little brief on what the tool contains. There are the 3 modules. You would enter the training with registering a few details on who you are. However, you're always anonymous when you do the training. There's a little bit of a game board where you start with watching a film, you continue with a set of questions, as you see in the right hand lower corner there. And then you get some sort of reward for answering right to the question, or you can get a chance to answer the question again if you answer wrong. So just also to recap a little bit from what our previous speakers said, there's a gender lens perspective on all the learnings in the tool. You will notice that the heroes, so to say, are females. The change makers, we're lifting up, female workers as change makers in the factory. We are also strengthening worker representatives and female supervisors throughout the whole training modules. You can change slide, please, Reidun. The other function that we developed jointly with the ETI for this project, but also for the social dialogue program, is a user feedback and data collection feature. So each and every worker will, after they have completed their training, also answer a set of questions that are reflecting, that are sort of giving us feedback on their situation and if they learned something or not, but also on some demographics that are important to be able to report back on, to understand the setup in the factory. Yes, we can move to the next one. The way of deploying or actually onboarding factories in this project is that we're using a landing page. There's a landing page for the social dialogue program. There's another one for this program, where the factories can access sort of unified information about the program, and also there's a link for them to register to the program. There's support for the trainers with some successful cases. How can you make this a successful training? And this provides then throughout the project a good point for the management in the factory to go back to in case they need to find out information on whom to turn to if there are any issues and so on. Yes, let's move to the next one. So I just wanted to congratulate the team on the ground there in Bangladesh, the ETI team and the Quizlet team, in a very speedy process, having onboarded 20 factories, having had kickoff meetings with them all. And as you see here, this is just a sample of what it could look like, but just to see that several of those factories are already engaged in trainings as we speak, and actually wanted to sort of complement Sarah's numbers a little bit from yesterday, saying that today there are 4,193 sessions and 1,362 workers that have completed the training. I just visited the website right now. And also wanting to mention that this data comes from the dashboard that both the ETI organization and relevant participants in that organization have access to, as well as the factories and the brands that are part of the project. So this means that this provides you with a platform, a common ground to actually follow the progress and to discuss, the results of the training. Right, we can move to the next one. So just showing a few samples of what has been going on for the last few days then. These are photos from the kickoff meetings with the factories, where both ETI team members and Quizlet team members have visited the factories to get them started with the training. So here you can see both workers and managers interacting with the tool, the training on occupational health and safety. Yes, we can move a little bit again. So the other thing that we do with our collaboration with ETI is to investigate how we can reach further and how we can use tech tools to be able to reach workers even if they might not be in a factory setting. There is a smartphone solution of the Quizlet training, and we are right now investigating the best way of making it accessible for workers also in Bangladesh. And just to show you a little snippet of it here too as well, if you want to move to the next slide. This is from a training we have developed with the United Nations IOM and the MOVE collaboration that is focusing on migrant workers in Thailand, I should say, coming from Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. And just to show you a little bit what it would look like with the game board, where you press the button to watch a film. The films are there to engage and motivate workers in all our trainings, in the occupational health and safety training as well, of course. And then there are a set of quiz questions that you answer, like I mentioned earlier. There's an option to listen to all the questions and answers, and that's important. And I know from the feedback yesterday from the social dialogue program that we might even need to emphasize a little bit more on how illiterate workers can access the training even though they cannot read and write. We can move on, Radon, to my last couple of slides. So I think it was Shamim maybe, or if it was Abil mentioning, you know, that the need in COVID times to sort of find ways of bridging the gap, to develop platforms in order to support, even though we are in a pandemic situation where, you know, where we all need to sort of like be extremely innovative to be able to reach out. So what we hope that we can do together with you guys is to be that bridge, or to bridge the gap together, in order to continue building both knowledge, real change, and also collaborations around the world. And I just wanted to bring this one up to show that we are working with different kinds of collaboration, within different kinds of collaborations, and with different companies to be able to do this. And I just want us all to encourage that kind of collaboration. And what is not here in as a logo is actually, I just wanted to also then mention Fairware Foundation, who has been part of the content work for the occupational health and safety module, just by working closely with the ETIs. So thank you for that. Yes, I think the last slide is just a thank you, a big thank you to all, and let's continue the great work. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. If you have questions for Sophie, please ask them in the chat. We have a Q&A session after one more presentation. Thank you, Sophie. That was really interesting to see a bit more from the details of the tool. So we're going to move on, and we're going to hear from Sarah again, Sarah Peterson, to give us a summary of the VSEF project baseline, which has been mentioned already.
Great, thank you so much, Radon, and thank you, Sophie, for a very interesting presentation. And it's been a pleasure working with you and the team. And I'm looking forward to it moving forward as well. I know that we are, again, running a bit short of time, which I hope we will catch up on later on. But so I'm going to be fairly brief with my slides, and instead encourage you to ask as many questions so we can have an informative discussion. Especially as we didn't have the time to have a discussion so much yesterday. I really would like to hear from all of you participating. But I'm going to first just give a slight overview of the needs assessment that we have done, which I mentioned in my previous presentation. So first of all, to mention, once the project started in August, obviously one of the first tasks that we had to do was to find a consultancy firm that could help us conduct a needs assessment, and it had to be done quite rapidly given the time frame that we have, and that we wanted to also have it to feed into obviously the design of the project. So it had to be done quickly, but we were fortunate enough to be able to get a procurement process up and running very fast. And the team was working basically day and night to review the various proposals that we got in, etc. And from that, we selected a Dhaka-based firm called Innovision. And together with them, I see that I'm actually like, there I think is fine. I'm falling out of the screen. And so we worked really intensely with them to formulate all the tools that we needed and the methodology, what that was needed for the needs assessment. So I'm just going to give a very brief overview of that. So basically we had a mixed method research. So we had a survey, but also a key informant interview methodology, and also organizing focus group discussions. And we had the enumerators also carrying out participatory observations inside the factory. So all of this just to make sure that we had as varied information as possible in order for us to also triangulate the data that we collected. We had a statistically representative samples from the 38,000 workers I was mentioning previously. So 384 workers who was also cutting across the various basically labor sections on the work floor. So junior operators, senior operators from the sewing and the cutting, etc., finishing. They were all representative in the sampling. It should also be mentioned that it was from all of the factories. So we didn't actually select only a few factories, but all of the 20 that were included was included in the project was also part of the needs assessment. We then also had a purposive sampling for the qualitative side of the study. So looking at interviews with supervisors and managers, and also with the top management and brand representatives. And we did then, as mentioned previously, the focus group discussions with workers. I'm not really sure what's happening with my camera here. I feel like I'm falling off the screen. So the most important slide, I think, the key findings from the needs assessment. So just to mention, we had some very intense days together with the factories collecting all the data. So a very large thank you also for all the factories who allowed us in and to basically be able to collect all of this data needed. So the key findings that we thought was very interesting is that the awareness and the practices within the factories are much stronger and better than we had initially anticipated. So almost all of the workers that was participating in the survey were aware of how to reduce the risk of illness from COVID. So for example, being aware of proper hand washing techniques, the need to use hand sanitizers and social distancing, etc. And this was also confirmed by the supervisors that this was being followed within the factories. Don't move, okay. The workers also stated that if they were falling sick, they would seek medical help, or if they were having a fever, and that around 77% of them would inform the employer and stay at home if falling sick. A majority also mentioned that there are indeed awareness raising posters throughout the factories and various awareness raising campaigns, and also that the factory management have also organized some campaigns about how to stay safe also outside of work. The supervisors that we interviewed also mentioned that there are wash stations throughout the factories and that they are equipped with soap and sanitizers. And this was also confirmed by the enumerators when conducting their observations. And as mentioned here on the slide, nearly everyone that we talked to in the survey were also happy with the way the situation had been dealt with of the management. However, those are findings coming out on the one hand, and then there are other findings which are slightly contradicting this. And so this is where all of these various ways of obtaining data is really important, and to do that triangulation. Because on the one hand, as mentioned, it looks like it's all much better than you would think. But on the other hand, it doesn't seem that the awareness and potentially the behavior with the factories confirm a knowledge and understanding of basically the practices and what's going on. So, for example, though the workers maintain social distancing within the factories, almost 2/3 of them, of the workers interviewed, did not believe that this was as important outside the factories. And that was even higher among male respondents than female respondents. So there's one thing of adhering to social distancing within the workplace, within the factories, but not feeling the need to actually do the same when coming home from work. In many cases, while the workers basically, they knew, as mentioned before, the importance of how to reduce the risk of illness by, for example, hand washing, and also using various PPE equipment such as masks and other protective equipment. They are not really familiar of how, in fact, it protects them. And also, when asked whether they, for example, hold their hand in front of their mouth when coughing and sneezing, only 35% of the interviews actually knew that that was important. Also interesting, while the workers stated that they would seek healthcare if they fell ill, and that they would inform the employer, more than half, or almost half, sorry, of them stated that they would, I think it was 47% stated that they would take fever reducing medicine and actually continue and finish their shift. And so that's again a slight contradiction there. And also many of the workers did not feel a need to get tested for COVID, even if they had symptoms. One other thing also that was interesting, and that we had to do some digging into the data collected, was that whereas all of the workers almost stated that there was hand washing facilities at the factory gate when entering the factory gate, the enumerators could only verify that in 17 of the factories. So that means that workers stating that it exists in 3 factories, that could actually not be verified. So as you see, there is some contradiction here between actually showing practices and awareness, and then how it actually is informed by an in-depth knowledge, and how it also adheres to outside of the factory. So that leads me to what I believe to be the final slide, or the second to final slide. Basically, this shows that there is not a straightforward correlation between the behavior and the knowledge within the factories. And so one can obviously try to analyze the reasons for this. And I don't think that there is one reason and that it's straightforward. But one potential factor is that one is keen to adhere to instructions provided within the factory, and to basically, you know, follow the rules and obey the rules that are existing within the workplace, but that one separates one's life between the workplace and basically one's social life outside of work. And therefore, there is the potential that the hazards that are existing within the social sphere is also brought back into, obviously, the workplace and the factory floor. So I think we're coming to this final slide. So yes, thank you, Aidan. So some of the recommendations that are coming out of the finding and also of our work following the needs assessment is obviously the need to not only provide and making sure that the equipment is there, but also to emphasize why it's important to use the equipment. And I think, you know, that's important not just in Bangladesh, but everywhere where I live in Italy myself, and I see people walking around with their masks quite sloppily. And so it's to understand why we are wearing the masks. One other thing that obviously is important is to ensure the adequate disinfection when you enter the factory, so that you are sanitized as soon as you enter the workplace. Also, it's worth mentioning that all RMG production units with more than 300 workers should, by law in Bangladesh, have an existing health facility. And it was seen that around 70% of the factories included in the project has also an area for quarantine if someone falls sick. And obviously they have the health facility there as well. However, how the quarantine area was used and what type of training the health staff and other focal points have in order to actually take care of those cases has not really been confirmed, and is not believed to maybe be as strong as needed. So a recommendation there is to look into that and see how can those health facilities be capacitated with knowledge, etc., to actually deal with cases once they get them. Also, the health and safety committees in the factories will be very important also for sustainability moving forward, to make sure that they also have the right knowledge and capacity to also be that link between the workers and the health facility, for example. So these are all things that we are looking into now as we move forward with the project. So I'm going to end there, and I'm looking forward to an interesting Q&A session. Thank you, Raiden.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So there are a couple of questions coming in here. I think I will direct these to you, Abil, and then you can, if you see fit, direct them to other members of the team. But at least the first question, is there a social stigma of having COVID-19 in Bangladesh? It's I don't know if you want to elaborate on that. And then question 2 here, what more can factories do to influence workers to use PPE and take better anti-COVID prevention measures outside of the factory work environment? Yeah, Avid, would you like to elaborate a bit on those questions?
Thank you, Raidu. On the first question, I would say that the word social stigma is a very strong word. So from this study itself, it's difficult to say that COVID-19, being infected by COVID-19 virus, has a social stigma. But what we have seen is that there's definitely some level of sensitivity around it, that people always doesn't want to share that they have been infected by the virus. This needs a bit more unpacking, which we will try to do through the rest of the program. And the second question, what can factories do more to influence workers to use PPE and take better anti-COVID prevention measures outside the factory work environment? I would say this is a continuous process. One thing the factories can do more is to create more awareness and make sure that the workers are equipped with the necessary tools they need to protect themselves. So again, through our programs in a small scale, we are helping the factories to do that. But we are hoping that through our program, we can generate enough learning that these learnings will be then taken up and scaled up by the entire industry.
Thank you, Abil. There is a question, I believe the other questions have been addressed, and Michaela, your question has at least partly been addressed, and then the project team is happy to follow up with you with more detailed information if you would like that. And in the interest of time, we will actually just move on. And we have another quick poll for you for us to get the next session started, in which we're going to ask you. I'm just going to go back here. Moving forward, in short, what would you like ETI to focus on in Bangladesh during 2021? This is the next session that we're entering into now. It's an open discussion where we would really like to hear your expectations. You've heard now a bit from our work both yesterday and today, but there is a year to come as well. So please, you can enter up to 3. You have up to 3 entries here. It's going to form a word cloud. Hopefully some of you enter the same word so that they will come up big. So please do provide your feedback on this. We would be very grateful for your expectations on what we should focus on in Bangladesh during 2021. So you can see collaboration, social dialogue, sustainability, worker representation, and purchasing practices coming up as some of the biggest words here, meaning that this is something that many of you find important in our work going forward. Great, thank you very much. I will close this poll now in 30 seconds, and then we'll go back to the meeting room, or to the open discussion, in which we would really like your comments on this. You see social dialogue here popping up as the biggest word. Worker representation, purchasing practices. Yes. Actually, we could leave this on because we have people in the audience that we would really like to comment. I see you have said that you could share your experiences of this project, and we would really like you to do that now. If you could do that, please, from Modelli Capital and Gumati Knitwear. Please do share your experiences and comment on our work and also moving forward. Thank you.
Thanks for your opportunities to share something about this project. Our group of companies have 4 garments unit. All the 4 garments unit have our running is our social dialogue project, and all the workers are very helpful to from this project, and our PC committee and others related persons who already taken training and guidance and counseling from this social dialogue project, and now they are mentally they are developing, and most of the cases they are positive thinking. Actually, they are now always thinking the positive and approaching also positive. So this social dialogue project also develop their mentality and responsibilities also to our factory. So this is very helpful from this project. And another point is this social dialogue project awareness component system is something different, and training system and trainer technique is very positive and very helpful to easily connect and collect the information from trainer to trainee. So this is very important things. And another project is the BSCP. Our two factory already running the BSCP tab-based training. This is really fantastic, and it's a new method in our garments industry. Earlier one project from our brand, we already running our fire safety training. It's a drama type of training. It's a drama type training, but it's a film type training and also drama type training. And also after the drama, questionnaire is coming. So very interesting and very uncommon method. So and this training workers feedback is very positive. They are most of the workers do not touch any tab, but this tab-based training, they are very happy to see this and use this. Really, they are very happy, and they also share their knowledge to others, factory workers and colleagues and family also. And they are mentally, they are mentally they are developing, but also they are developing their three component here, safety, fire safety, and COVID-19 issue. So all the things they are taking information from this tab-based training. And another issue, most of the our factory have our female worker is more. So this training film female leadership, they are focused the female leadership. So our female workers are they are psychologically developing. They are very positive thinking. And another feedback is the training. We also showing the our trainee, our workers capacity like training taking capacity. If any workers giving the answer questions answer is wrong, then we are showing this. So it also very helpful for us. And the ETI one issue is very important. The ETI communication, ETI to factory management communication is very smooth and very nice communication. They are always communicating two-way. they are giving mail. Also, they are sent one message or one phone call to sharing and any program information and others. This is really fantastic. So we are happy, and we are taking very positive result from this both training. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Arup, for your sharing your thoughts and experiences with that. Does anyone else want to comment in this session? This is an open session where we would really like your comments and thoughts.
This is Kutubuddin Ahmed.
Welcome.
I am a representative from Industrial Global Union Bangladesh. I am also the chairman of Workers Resource Center ILO Run project. I would like to say something.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Really, it is a very fantastic program you have been organizing, and we are participating. Really, I appreciate. I express my heartiest congratulations to the ETI Bangladesh and the headquarters of ETI. Really, you are doing a very good job. And from the part of ETI means Ethical Trade Initiative. It is a very good word, but I think Ethical Trade Initiative in our country, some green factory, it is also, I think, also part of Ethical Trade Initiative. Workers are working, whether workers are deprived from their demand, deprived from their rights and privileges, that is to be determined, that is to be, we have to look forward. And Ethical Trade International initiative has been relentlessly working for the betterment of the working people in my country. We are passing very crucial time amid of COVID-19. Really, this time in our country, though you know very well that Bangladesh is the least developed country and densely populated country. COVID-19, where densely populated, this is very alarming situation, but it is very difficult to keep distance from one people to another. Particularly in the RMG sector, their position is more vulnerable. Their position is more serious. I think Ethical Trade International should look into it. And corona vaccine, which has been going to be distributed by producing company and producing country, our RMG sector workers, please, you should take a closer look about the distribution of COVID, that is vaccine, so that workers can get the vaccine on priority basis, and without making any payment, so that workers can get the the vaccine. So I think in Bangladesh, collective bargaining, collaboration and social dialogue is taking place very smoothly, but there are so many, but some interruption has been taking place from the factory owner. What we see in my country, that the factory owners are always trying to bring it in the light that the only the committee of PC committee can do everything, but PC committee is not the substitute of union. For which I would like to stress on it, PC committee, trade union, as per ILO Convention 87 and 98, union must be introduced, and Ethical Trade International should work on it to establish as per ILO Convention 87 and 98, so that 87 and 98 can, in the line of 87 and 98, workers can establish union, trade union. So
Thank you very much, Qutbuddin.
and should I say something more?
I think we, do you want to say something more? If not, I think we'll move on, because I think you really made some important points here, and thank you for drawing our attention to the core ILO conventions, again, which are crucial in our work. So thank you very much for your words.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Qutbuddin, for your input. We're going to move on now, in the interest of time, to the next session. And there are some questions in the chat, and I just want to confirm that we are going to keep this chat, and then the project team will follow up with you afterwards if there are unanswered questions. So I'm going to give the word now to Hannah Bruce again from the ETI UK to introduce our next guests. And
excellent. Thank you very much, Raden. And thank you very much all. Lovely to see you again. So in the interest of time, I do want to move on quite quickly. And the previous points and discussion markers were really important and pertinent segue into the next section. So the next section, we'll be really thinking about the future of the sector and future planning. We really want to get some insights from some specific stakeholders. So we're very pleased to have Miran Ali with us. Thank you very much, Miran, for joining us. Lovely to see you again. Miran is the director of the BGMEA and also the chairman of Misami Garment Limited. So thank you for joining us, and we'll also be hearing some reflections from Peter McAllister, ETI Executive Director. So Miran, I believe you'll be giving us a little bit of insights and some reflections on the response that BGMEA have already taken in relation to the pandemic, and where you see the opportunities for organisations like ETI, but others, to also work in collaboration with yourselves.
Thank you very much, Hannah. Thank you for the introduction. And I would like to start by saying that, look, first of all, these are my personal opinions. The BGMEA has been working very, very hard to try and ensure that the factories are able to restart and restart safely. And I think from what we've seen from the findings, at least although it was a small survey of 20, in 17 cases, the results were generally a positive thing for our sector. So we can take one of the lessons that I would like to take back, a self-congratulatory one, is going to be that our efforts have to some extent worked out. Yes, there were 3 factories which didn't have hand washing. That should not have happened. So we've been working very hard in trying to establish this restarting of business. But when we do that, we then discover that we have this huge gap where we as an association have little that we can do. And that comes to the issue of purchasing practices. That one was one of my votes. So purchasing practices is one where we find UK companies, to give the example, applying for bankruptcy, protecting the wealth of their owners while reneging on all payments to their suppliers. Because according to your bankruptcy rules, we as suppliers do not rank in the primary list of creditors to be refunded. So we've got companies, big companies, EWM, Debenhams, now Arcadia, one by one seeking Chapter 11 protection or bankruptcy protection, receiver, whatever you call it. End of the day, there's a worker in Bangladesh who is not getting paid because your laws do not require that to be done. And this is something which is fundamentally unfair. If we have a contract, this contract has to be honored. If you're going to go into bankruptcy protection, there has to be some sort of a payment plan. Suppliers as creditors must be given a higher priority. And this is something where we need ETI's help to try and build our case, because ultimately what's going to happen is that in the post-COVID world, we are going to see more companies potentially going bankrupt or going into restructuring, because very, very rarely do they actually shut down permanently. They restructure and they come in with some private equity investor in a new guise. But in the meantime, the supplier in Bangladesh with the workers has not been paid. So we need your help on this. The other thing I want to mention is the RSC, the RMG Sustainability Council. Now, last year, thanks to the leadership of our president, Dr. Rubana Haq, the BGMEA negotiated with the Accord and executed a very smooth transition from what was essentially a foreign entity to one which is a national organization. The RSC, the RMG Sustainability Council, is registered in Bangladesh. It is a Bangladeshi non-profit organization, which includes international trade unions, their local affiliates, the BGMEA and the industry interests, as well as the brand interests. And one aspect of the RSC is, of course, to continue the work of the Accord in electrical, structural, and fire safety, as well as the workers' complaint mechanism and the occupational health and safety training. In addition to that, we have now added the pillars of sustainability and labor. Now, labor is a catch-all term, and this I will reflect on some of the things that Mr. Kutub Bhai mentioned earlier, as well as some of the things that came up in your poll. A lot of the things that came up in your poll on social dialogue, on interaction, on discussions, on dispute resolution, this we want to bring under the labor wing of the RSC. And this is my personal opinion, not the RSC board opinion, but I think it would be an interesting step forward if we could explore further possibilities of collaboration between the ETI and the RSC. I think it can be a good partner for the RSC in developing it. Again, I must emphasize the RSC is a tripartite organization. I represent only one part of it. I'm not speaking for the board, but it's my opinion that we have a great deal of collaboration and cooperation and learning that we can have in this regard, particularly in the case of labor. We also need to really start working on transparency in the supply chain, because Bangladesh is now very, very confident about the transparency that we can live with. We are the most transparent country in the world. What we need to see is the brands, the buyers purchasing from Bangladesh are required to have the same level of transparency for the other countries that they source from. Transparency should not be a burden that a tax that Bangladesh pays. It should be a benefit for our sector, for our investors, and for our exporters and our workers. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll come along later on and pop in with something else, but thank you for now.
Thank you very much, Miran. That's very interesting, and you make some really interesting points, particularly around the existing financial challenges, the work that's already being undertaken by the RSC, and obviously around transparency. Peter, maybe you want to kind of reflect on some of those areas and think about alignment and future direction for not just ETI, but for industry stakeholders in relation to global markets and sourcing from Bangladesh.
Thank you, Hannah. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
So Miran, great to hear your thoughts, and nice to see that we're in alignment in a lot of them. Let me start off with a couple of thoughts I wanted to share, and then I want to support and respond to a couple of things that Miran has shared with us. Although this event over the last 2 days is focused on Bangladesh, we should be absolutely clear that the impact has had its heroes and its villains globally. It's not true to say that rich countries have done particularly well. We've had just as many problems with getting people and good practices in what's traditionally been the richer north as it has been in emerging economies. So we've got as much to learn from these sorts of events held in Bangladesh and India and China as we have to provide. And I think it's important to note that a lot of the hard work that goes into manufacturing is happening in places like Bangladesh and India. So we've got a lot, we need to be humble, and we've got a lot to learn. Really grateful for Miran to be there. I know you're speaking in a personal capacity, but BGMEA is an important partner and an important voice in Bangladesh. And I think it's grown in importance, and it's really important that all of us on this call, but the wider industry recognizes the importance of BGMEA in its role in Bangladesh. The impact of COVID, obviously, it's been incredibly dramatic on the supply end. It's been tough on the demand end as well. But our own work has shown both a number of cases where companies have really gone, brands and retailers have gone to the extreme to try and engage their suppliers, work through these challenges together. But there have been far too many cases when, as Miran has said, either people have bolted for the door or in the situation where they've gone into administration, the impact on suppliers is very, very dramatic. This is something I had to learn firsthand. I spoke with the British government about this, and the reality is, as Miran says, unsecured suppliers are very, very low down on the list of creditors, and that does enormous amount of harm both to business and to workers. We would certainly like to lend our voice to try and change that. It takes a long time to change government policy, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try. The other avenue then is to look at contracts. They can be changed to mean that suppliers can be secured creditors rather than unsecured creditors. So, Miran, that's a conversation I'd like to pick up with you and others. Meaningful engagement matters, doesn't it? The pandemic this year has had an impact, but there's going to be an echo effect because stock has been warehoused. People are keeping hold of this year's stock, which might go into next year, so it will affect planning, it will affect production capacities, and it's really important that we have that dialogue and encourage brands to work with their suppliers openly on what the impact of this is for next year and possibly even the year beyond, so there are no surprises, so that suppliers can plan effectively, so that they can organize their finances effectively, so that, again, we don't do any harm that's unplanned in the coming future. Purchasing practices, that was definitely on my list. It's not just a small thing. This matters. How the financing works, when people are paid, how the contracts are constructed, how people plan together, how value is shared. This is at the heart of the success and the sustainability of this sector. If the COVID doesn't show that in stark light, then I'm not sure what would. It predates COVID, of course, but this is now one of the central conversations to make sure that if we want a viable, sustainable, thriving industry, that these questions are brought to the fore and we have honest conversations about it. And part of that is then driving greater transparency. Miran, as you've said, Bangladesh scores very highly on that, and I think we shouldn't always focus on Bangladesh. Of course, this is a national conversation. There are other markets where there's a lot more work to be done. And so we need to look at this globally. And we need to see where the best practice is, where the good practice can be exported from places like Bangladesh, and that other sourcing markets need to do more. The other thing I would say is we need to recognize and reward suppliers who have made the right effort during this difficult time. All suppliers in each country are not the same. There are those who have gone to extreme measures to put in place safe working environments, to make sure their factories are approved by the Accord, for example, to engage in social dialogue. Brands should be rewarding that good practice by putting their business there. And then we should either encourage those that haven't seen the light yet or drive them out of the sector. Let's make sure we're working with the suppliers who get what we're trying to do, who realize that successful business is based on engaging workers and having a successful, thriving workforce that drives good business. It's a virtuous circle. So we need to make sure that we're rewarding that and not just seeking lower prices and not just seeking short-term gains, because again, we will undermine the sustainability of this sector more broadly. RSC, we are very, very pleased to see that. The Accord was a product of its time. We have always felt at ETI that should have translated into local ownership, local leadership, and we're really excited to see the RSC gaining momentum. We'd be very happy, both locally and internationally, to engage, play the role that we can play, led by that local conversation. And certainly, I know Abil and I have had that conversation locally. I know the team would be happy to engage with the RSC in whichever productive way we can locally, and then for us to pick up that conversation internationally. I genuinely believe that ultimately the solutions are found locally, and they're found with international partners who want RSC to succeed, Bangladesh to succeed, and the industry to thrive. So it's incumbent on us to get behind local initiatives and work with you on that. So there's a lot in our agenda coming up. Some of that is immediate and that we need to continue to build on the good work that's being done. Some of that is bigger. Sector-wide, I still think this sector lacks a sense of purpose and a sense of vision. I think it still largely is driven by today's problem and tomorrow's order. And yet, if you stand back, the potential of this industry is incredible. On the one hand, to give consumers what they want, but on the other hand, to drive economic investment, to drive engagement of women in the workforce, to help support emerging economies, to help build transparency and good business practice. This sector is quite unique in its reach and its potential, and yet we are not making the best of that potential. So you will hear me, I'm afraid, bang on about this in the future. We have learnt the lessons. The success of this sector requires all of us to work in different ways and to collaborate together. We need to raise that collaboration to a different level. There are good examples of it that we know we can build on. And we want to realize this potential, the potential of this sector, as I say, to give workers decent jobs, to help drive emerging economies, to help reach the SDGs, and to create transparent supply chains that consumers can buy from with confidence. So that's my comment on where we go. I think it's both an exciting and a daunting task, but I genuinely believe we have ways to do that. We have good collaborations in place that we can build on. And if COVID hasn't given us that sense of purpose, then I don't know what will.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Peter. Miran, we're very close to closing up, but I just wondered if you had any final comments that you wanted to share in reflection to those, and any kind of last words that you want to leave us with that we need to take forward into 2021.
That's quite an ask, Hannah. What I did like was what Peter said, and that's so true. The one concern on my mind right now is next month's orders, because half of them have disappeared because of the third wave somewhere, or the fourth wave, or God knows how many waves you're on now. So it is very difficult for us to sometimes get beyond what our initial immediate problems are and looking at the long term. Now, the BGME is committed to the SDGs, and for Bangladesh, for us to meet the SDGs. And that is going to be the sustainability part of the RSC. That's where we intend to work on this. But I think it would be really good if we were to take this discussion further and work together on a long-term vision for the RMG sector in Bangladesh, which not only takes into account transparency, social dialogue, the rights of workers and their responsibilities, as well as ensuring that we somehow manage the long-term sustainability of this business. It is not something that necessarily can grow at 8% a year forever, indefinitely. There has to be a long-term vision on where we see our industry going. So I think this has been a very interesting conversation, and I believe that 2021, I hope, is going to be a year that is going to be hopefully better for us, and that we can continue to work on developing a concrete path, a plan on how we see the future of our industry. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And let's keep those communication channels open. Okay, over to you, Raiden, to help us wrap up for the day, and over to Alok for final words. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Hannah. With your permission, everyone in the audience, we're going to extend the program by 5 very short minutes, because we really want to give the word to another important stakeholder who's in the audience today, who has prepared a comment, which is China Rahman, General Secretary of the Federation of Garment Workers. Are you still with us, China? If so, we would really like to hear from you as well. There you are.
Okay.
I'm sorry for this back and forth.
Okay, yeah, thank you for giving me a chance. This is China Rahman before you, FGW General Secretary, ex-General Secretary, Industrial Bangladesh Council. Actually, just I'm sharing the country's scenario and the especially women's workers. In this pandemic time, workers did not lose job only. They also facing problem. You know, the most of time women face the problem, but in this pandemic, it has become twice. Especially women's workers. Now already child marriage has started dowry system has started, and all time facing lots of problem women workers. Sometimes family pressure, sometimes factory hard working, but pressure target fill up. And then I think I think from the field level to national level, women have to be aware. So women have to be self-independence. They need to know about law, and they have to be self-confident. And another side, not only workers are struggling in the pandemic, then leaders are also struggling. In the last my speech, because no silence in the violence against women, and the organize. We need your help, especially ETI and UK and Bangladesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, China, for those important last words as well. We're going to end by playing the gender song in a bit, so just after Alok wraps up. So there, couldn't agree more with you on that. Thank you again. Alok,
hi.
Over to you to wrap up. Thanks for being with us today as
Thanks,
well.
Brilliant.
Yes.
I'll not take much of the time. I'll just briefly wrap up the session here. I think we had very constructive discussion over the last 2 days, and I'm really thankful to all of you for participating and hearing from your side your inputs and contributions. That's really going to help us in shaping up the program. We certainly have been organizing these events periodically, and these events really give us a direction in which we should be traveling. As you know, we started, from one person team to today we have 17 multidisciplinary team members. We were working on social dialogue program. Now the scope of work has increased. Gender has now been incorporated as a mainstream element of all our work. We responded to COVID-19 through the OSH work and the VHCF support that we received. Again, a lot of changes we made in the way we deliver programs, from face-to-face trainings to piloting a virtual training platform through the tab, and then making a blended learning program in partnership with Quizzer. We have also been looking at responding to some of the industry related issues and challenges, and that's where we will be looking at our own approach, and as has been suggested by our union friends, organizing efforts and supporting activities that can facilitate formation of unions at the workplace would be something that we would be working alongside our union brothers and sisters. And going ahead, we would like to strengthen the local coordination and collaboration with other initiatives, may that be MSIs or other unions, federation, or brands, as well as industry association, including BGMEA and BKMEA. At the same time, working with government as well. We would certainly be, we have a legal presence here in Bangladesh, and we are going to be working, going ahead with some of the inputs that we receive from different stakeholders In order to capture these inputs, what we will be working on is setting up of local platforms through which we would facilitate engagement and discussions among various stakeholders, including brands, manufacturers, unions, and civil society organizations. We will strengthen our own institutional capacity also to able to cater to some of the needs which the workers and factories are expressing. We really appreciate the support that we have received from all of you so far, and we expect to have similar support continued even in the years to come. Thank you everyone for all your contributions over the last 2 days. And I would like to extend my gratitude and thanks to all the key speakers or the guest speakers and everyone who have contributed through the chat box. We would, I would be unfair not to mention the whole team, which has put in so much of effort in organizing these 2-day events. My heartfelt thanks and appreciation to entire ETI Bangladesh team, as well as our colleagues from Secretariat, from both ETI UK as well as ETI Norway, for ensuring smooth functioning of this meeting over an online platform and then managing some of the responses that have come through. Thank you very much. Again, in the end, I would like to express my gratitude to the Ambassador of Royal Norwegian Embassy for his presence and opening remarks. Thank you everyone for staying with us in these 2 days and providing your inputs. We expect to hear more from you. Do reach out to us if you have any particular suggestions or inputs to make. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alok. And with that, we're going to end this meeting by playing the famous gender song. Thank you everyone for participating, and have a lovely afternoon or day, depending on where you are.
শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান, নেই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান। কান পেতে শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান, নেই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান। নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানার অঙ্গনে। নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানার অঙ্গনে। সহিংসতা নয় সম্মানের পরিচয়, মিলেমিশে করি কাজ আনন্দে নির্ভয়। সহিংসতা নয় সম্মানের পরিচয়, মিলেমিশে করি কাজ আনন্দে নির্ভয়। নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানার অঙ্গনে। নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানার অঙ্গনে। কান পেতে শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান, এই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান। কান পেতে শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান, এই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান। সমাজ গর্ব সবাই। আমরা পুরুষ আছে আমাদের ওদায়, নিপীড়ন মুক্ত সমাজ গর্ব সবাই। নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানার অঙ্গনে। করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে সহিংসতা নয় সম্মানের হাত বাড়ায় মিলেমিশে এসো আজ পৃথিবী সাজায় সহিংসতা নয় সম্মানের হাত বাড়ায় মিলেমিশে এসো আজ পৃথিবী সাজায় নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে কান পেতে শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান নেই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান কান পেতে শোনো ওই সমতার আহ্বান নেই ভেদাভেদ আজ সবাই সমান নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে নারী পুরুষ সমতার বন্ধনে কাজ করি কারখানা রঙ্গনে
Thank you. Goodbye.